fellow RC fanatics, nitro fanatics, RC nerds, whatever you want to call yourself. This is the DeanTech D9. I know I've already done videos on it, but I haven't really gone over the build process and how it actually functions. This actually has what's known as counter steer. The rear wheels actually spin faster than the front wheels. That makes it look like it's a scale that makes it look like the rear has more power than the front. So unlike my HPI drift, RS4 drift, that's just 50-50 front and rear, and you for some, like I think the Sprint 2, you can get different pulleys, differential. You got bevel and crown gears, or ring and pinion. In Europe and Australia, it's called a bevel and a crown gear. The bevel being the pinion, the crown being the ring. But the front has a one-way diff, so these wheels will actually spin, and this is what it looks like when it's done. This is electronics. I'm gonna run in it for now, but I can't put them in until Christmas. My fiance bought it for me, so I haven't put the wheels on yet. All that takes is putting the the plastic in some boiling water, heating them up, makes them more malleable to push down over the metal rims. It does have metal rims. The only parts of this that are not metal are the rear hubs, which are actually casters. It looks like they're casters, strangely, from an SCX-10, because I've compared. I still have plastic casters from an SCX-10, and they look identical. So yeah, I don't know. But essentially how this, not essentially, this works by a pulley goes on here, which attaches to this belt right here. I'm just going to get all this crap out of the way. That spins this large pulley down here, which drives the front diff directly. On the front of that pulley is a smaller pulley. On the front of the large pulley is a smaller pulley that sends power up to here, then back through this shaft, down to the center shaft. And that's how it gets power to the rear wheels. The build itself took 15 hours, and this is where I'm at. I still haven't cut the body, haven't mounted the body, haven't done any of that yet. The build itself, you start off building the shocks. Start off with the front shocks and then the rear shocks, or rear then front, I can't remember exactly. I'm having to remember all this, so if I say a lot, I apologize. But I'll throw a picture up here. You know, it's either this side or this side, I can't remember. But you build the entire front half. Once that's done, you put it aside. Then you start building on the main chassis. You start with the rear diff and bulks, all of that, the suspension, just the arms mainly. And then you make your way to adding the chassis braces right here, the center drive shaft, and the last part is putting these on, these side braces, stiffeners. I have no idea what they're actually called. And at that point, once you're done, you take the front half and the rear half and you put them together. And it can hardly be seen, but right here and the center brace and up here somewhere, yeah, right here. That's how the front connects to the rest of the chassis. As of right now, this is the most realistic when it comes to weight, because just like an actual car, most of the weight's up front. So that's where the engine is. It has these fake stacks. They're not even real. Basically velocity stacks. I honestly can't wait to run it, but like I said, I got it early. I ordered it on October 31st, And I was expecting it to come from Hong Kong. I ended up paying the $50 shipping. There's a $35 and a $50. I opted for the $50 to hopefully get it a little faster for Christmas. Came in 4 days from Hong Kong. Had to put it on a plane. So it's an awesome chassis. I will say there are a couple things. A lot of people completely take out the front diff. So you have a strictly rear-wheel drive. This has a lot of steering angle. So you can run this as a strictly rear-wheel drive if you choose to. Honestly, you could just take out this bevel gear. Well, I'm actually starting to sound European. That would be a pinion gear to Americans. It takes quite a bit of time. There are a lot of parts. I've already done a pictorial of it, and it takes a lot of time. There are easily over 200 screws. You have to set up all the links. There's a link that goes to each arm to make sure it doesn't travel too far. You have McPherson struts up front. You only have so much camber and caster, but again, that makes it more realistic. I mean, because honestly, unless you do major modifications to a real car, you're not going to see a lot of camber. Especially a drift car. It's not realistic. I haven't drove this yet, so honestly I don't know. It was a very fun build. It was a very time-consuming build, but it was very fun. I will say one thing that I'm worried about is when I just go to practice running it, I'm going to be running it outside on the asphalt. I'm going to have to sweep the asphalt before I even run it because the diffs are completely open. There's nothing sealing the differentials. And like I said, the rear differential actually isn't a differential. It's a spool. It's a one piece of metal that has 2 out drives. And these will not spin independently. It's basically a lock differential. That's so you will get equal amount of power to both rear wheels. The front is a one-way. The wheels will spin this way freely, but if I try to spin them this way, it'll spin the whole drivetrain. The motor mounts, I'm going to do it with the wire up. I'm going to shorten these wires. But the motor mounts in like this. 540 can is about the biggest that you're going to be able to fit in here. May be a problem right there. I don't know if it fits. Just barely, but it fits. So that's how the motor fits, but it's actually going to be upside down with the wires tucked in. Cleaner look, of course. More like this. I have to figure out a way. I may just Dremel a hole in the firewall. It actually has a firewall. So Dremel a hole so these wires can fit through that. And I'm not going to be using this. I'm going to be using either a Tekin 13.5 turn setup from Tekin with a RX3, a Hobby Wing 1/10 censored 12.5 setup from them. It's going to cost about $250 just for the electronics because this is a competition drifter, so I'm not going to go cheap. One thing that I will say that I've said in other videos is the battery holder. You've got this battery holder right here, but there's no way to get, say, a 5,000 milliamp hour, even a 2S battery down in that. I have a 2S battery right here. And because of these braces right here, you can't get that battery in there. So what I'm going to do, and what pretty much everybody else has done, is put it right there and then plug it into my ESC just like that. Yeah, right there. I gotta put a new receiver plug on this I can't even remember, Futaba. I don't know, probably gonna be running two or 3S. I'm not sure yet. I'll just see what the drivetrain can take. The belts, you only got belts in the front. You've got 3 belts. 1 is the main drive belt. 2 is the secondary belt that takes the power from the main pulley system up to power the rear drive shaft, and then you have a third belt that actually goes from this shaft down to the drive shaft. And like I said, it's all aluminum and carbon fiber. For the price, you can't beat it, in my opinion. And there are MST, one I'm looking at right now, MST, oh crap, I can't even remember. It has a motor all the way in the back. I think it's FSS. And that's another one I'm looking at. And it's $650, and it's a kit. It's mostly carbon fiber. But now that I've done this, I absolutely love kits. Every now and then I may get a ready-to-run vehicle, but kits are essentially, in my opinion, that's the best way to learn how your vehicle works. If something breaks and you actually build it yourself, within 5 minutes of diagnosing, you'll be able to know immediately what it is. Like with this, I can see my differentials, front and back, so if something's stripped, easy. Parts can be bought through the buildrc.com. That's where this was actually purchased from. It has CVDs all around. It has, the other plastic parts are the ball links. So it has ball joints all the way around, and the links are plastic. So, I mean, you really can't use metal, because trying to snap metal onto metal doesn't work all that well when you're using a ball joint setup. And it works, honestly. It's a hard plastic, but a flexible plastic, so you don't have to really worry about it. The dash is a really cool part. There are scale 1/10 gauges that you can put in this. There's a lot of stuff. AC vents, whatever you want to do. I mean, there's some people that hydro dip their chassis before they even started putting them together. There's a group on Facebook that's just for this vehicle right here. I got the latest version. The first version was completely different from this, and it's been out, I believe, 3 years. A vehicle that's coming out that I'm really looking forward to is the Cragsman. It's a 1/8 scale crawler. I've never really been a fan of 1/10 scale. You really don't have a lot of, just if you go out trailing and stuff like that, those small, I mean, even if you're running 2.2s with decent sized tires, you have to make it look like a monster truck. So personally, I don't like 1/10 scale. I think 1/8 scale is really going to start taking over in the crawler world, because it makes things a little more realistic. Because the bigger you get, the more scale gravity and physics become. And that's the thing about this one, with the weight distribution and the McPherson strut setup. I mean, of course, the bell system is completely not even a, you wouldn't be able to do that. I mean, I have a CVD transmission in my car, constant variable, CVT, constant variable transmission. It uses a metal belt, and they are known to go out fairly often. So if you were to actually try to use belts to transfer all the power from the motor to the drive shaft, yeah, that's not going to work very well, in my opinion. CVD drive shafts work. All the shock bodies are threaded. Front shocks are actually upside down, so make sure you fill those up enough. They do have bladders, so it's not going to leak. But make sure you don't overfill them. Make sure you fill them up enough, and make sure you set your preload. Not your preload. I can't remember what it is. But you basically want the shaft to be where you want, so it doesn't rebound. Rebound. That's it. So if you pull it out, it's gonna pull itself back in, or if you push it in, it's gonna push itself back out. The shock shaft itself. So yeah, like I said, very fun build. There are a few parts that I think I may change. I don't know yet. I can't really make any. All I can talk about right now is the build. I haven't driven it yet, and it's bugging the crap out of me. I will say the pins that hold the upper arms in place, there's no set screw to hold them in place. So basically what I did is, where there's a little cutout, I just put some blue Loctite down in there, and it holds that pin in place, so I don't have to worry about that pin sliding out. And because it's not held in place by any type of set screw like it is on every other piece, like every other set screw on this. But yeah, that is the DeanTech. It even says it on the bottom. Dean. Fijan actually makes one. It's called the Fijan FJ9. I have no idea how they got their hands on it. This is an awesome design to me personally because it makes it look realistic. The only downside of this is your body choices are going to be slim, especially if you want to run a hood. Personally, I'm looking at running a like about a 1989 Mustang. I know they fit because I've already seen people use them. And I'll be getting the smoke system, put it back here. There's a lot of room on the chassis, and that's another cool thing about the seats. One seat, this is the driver's seat, doesn't have any cutouts. This seat, the passenger side seat, or driver's side, you can flip this. You can take this out, and if you're a European with right-hand side drive, you can put it like that. And yeah, that's how that goes in. It just snaps in place because there's not going to be any power really going through that. But for the servo throw, it's actually cut out. And this is better than the Fijan because the Fijan dash and seats is actually Lexan or polycarbonate. I can't remember exactly what it's made out of, but these are actually fiberglass or some type. I'm pretty sure they're fiberglass. I don't think, yeah, this is too flexible to be carbon fiber, but this sits here and there's screws to hold it in place. Just haven't put them in yet. Then this will sit on top of the servo and this will sit on top of the ESC. So if you like scale and you're into drifting, this is an awesome setup. And then once you have your battery back here, you can have a smoke system here, a light system, whatever you want to do. So yeah, it's just a really awesome setup, really unique setup. And whoever engineered this, a lot of time had to have gone in this. I know that when it first came out, it was like $500. I got it $350 shipped to my house in 4 days. That's not bad. I have a ProTech brushless digital high-speed servo coming. And again, electronics. I'm going to use a Castle system for now since it's just a 2S setup. It's a Castle Sidewinder, the SCT Sidewinder. But hell, the SCT and the regular Sidewinder is the same damn thing. Even the Sidewinder 3. And I'm using a 7700 kV motor. I'm thinking a 7700 kV motor may not have the torque. It'll have the speed, but not the torque. So, we'll see. But yeah, that's pretty much the overview of how it goes together, the different parts, the counter steer setup. If you want to learn more about counter steer, RC Sparks actually has a write-up about how it works. It essentially makes the rear wheel spin faster than the front, so you're constantly having to sort of fight to keep the rear end straight or at an angle. So you're constantly having to, say it's sliding this way, you're having to give it some counter steer like that to keep it going in a smooth drift. Because if you just keep it straight, it's just going to spin. Because the rear wheels are spinning faster than the front. It's 1.35 to 1, I believe. But that is the DeanTech D9 Bulldog. Going to be fun to do videos with this, race this, and run this, and eventually compete with this. This would be a front motor 4-wheel drive setup, or I can take out the front diff and do a front motor rear-wheel drive setup. So that's the two options you have with this. So again, thanks for watching. Peace.